Patty Soldiers. Happy 2022! Cheers, y'all! We made it! To celebrate, I am drinking a non-alcoholic gin and tonic, which is just tonic water with a shit ton of lime. Ooh. Spicy. Are you also somebody who likes fizzy water, or are you someone who denies yourself joy? So technically, my favorite books of 2021 should have been my last video of 2021. However, I wanted to make it my December reading wrap-up. This one corner, because I see all these book bloggers posting my favorite books of the year, like December 7th, and I'm like, you are pessimistically denying yourself the opportunity to maybe find one of your new favorite books in those last 3 weeks. And that's exactly what happened to me, so I'm glad I held out on this video because one of these I just read last month and it was great. I had an entire year to read things and let it percolate in my mind of which ones I think are superior models. So grab yourself a nice beverage, grab yourself a festive snack, and without further ado, let us go through what, in my humble opinion, were the best top 10 YA books of 2021. I'm not gonna go in any particular order, mostly because I don't remember what month I read these, but I'm pretty sure the first one I'm gonna talk about is actually one that I read in January. I wanna talk about it first because I wrote down a note for it, and I'm totally gonna forget if we put it off any longer because I have the object permanence of a cat. This is why none of these books are ebooks, because if I can't see it physically, it doesn't exist to me. My freezer will tell you the same story. Anyways, number one on this list is the Greek God Bloodbath That Was Lore by Alexandra Bracken. I know this got some mixed reviews when this first came out. A lot of people didn't like it. If you're one of those people, that is okay. We can still be friends. Sometimes I like being friends with people who are wrong. Like Rick Riordan is known as Uncle Rick. Like he's the cool older dude at the family gathering. Alexandra Bracken, writing in Greek mythology, is like the ant that rolls up, like the estranged ant, let's paint this picture. The estranged ant on a motorcycle with a leather jacket that may or may not be involved in a gang, question mark, but like she gives really dope gifts and is like a raging feminist. That's what this book is. The story of lore follows a handful of god-killer families, and coming up on a next Aegon, which is a point of time where the Greek gods will walk the earth as mortals, and if any of these god-killer families manage to kill them, they can take their divinity and immortality. Lore herself is the last of her family line, and there is some big politics happening within the god-killer family hierarchies, but when the next Aegon begins, she finds a dying god at her doorstep along with a family friend who she thought was dead. This is so exciting and enthralling and tension-filled because you get all of these plots between the different hunters and the gods, and then time's ticking down. Not to mention this book is bloody as hell. This definitely set the precedent for a year of female villains and super dark, super bloody YA novels. You could wring this book out like a towel, there was so much blood in it, because it's like, do you also enjoy watching two god-struck, star-crossed, incredibly attractive teenagers making out after cutting someone's thumbs off? Me too! So yes, well done, Miss Bracken. I thoroughly enjoyed this, which might say something about me, but you know, you can psychoanalyze that all you want. Okay, so I got the first one of the year out of the way. Now it's just gonna be chaos from here on out. Not that it's not slightly chaotic already. Next, I want to talk about my new favorite book. I found my new favorite book this year because, ooh, House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland is the creepy, eerie, disturbing, unsettling fairy lore novel that I needed in my cold, dead heart, and it's now here in my hands and I love her so much. This is about the three Hollow sisters who, when they were 10 years old, went missing in the streets of Edinburgh, and when they came back 1 month later, their eyes turned black, their hair turned white, and the media devours them over this weird story of them not having any memory of what happened to them. The story picks up when Iris and Vivi have to go after their third sister, Grey, who has gone missing once again. While this book didn't have a perfect ending or a nicely cyclical story, something about her writing just draws you in and you cannot stop reading it once you start it, but it's so unsettling and unnerving, and just like her verb choice is so weird. But I love that kind of creeping, supernatural, playing with the human form, human versus nature type of fae magic, and so this frickin' did it for me, my lord. You know liminal spaces? Like airports or schools after they close, or like abandoned carnivals. That's this vibe. You enter a liminal space once you start reading this. It may not kill you, but you will feel like you have died. Switching to something completely different, let's talk about a bangin' sci-fi that I read this year. I will not shut up about Gearbreakers by Zoe Hanamikuta. So I'm gonna sell this to you right now, okay, ready? Sapphic Pacific Rim. Done. You're welcome. This book slaps so freaking hard. In the kingdom of Gondolia, the tyrannical rule of the government is being held in place by these giant mech bots called wind-ups. Think like 20-story tall mechanical warrior robots piloted by somebody who is also cybernetic. Our main character, Sona, is a wind-up pilot who rebels against her piloting program? The bad people in the government that are turning her into a cyborg, those people. Eris is a rebel leader and Gearbreaker who is somebody who gets into the wind-ups and dismantles them from the inside out. The two of them meet when Eris gets captured and they both break out of the facility and go to the rebel camps where politics, found family, government conspiracies, and love all happen. This is such a fun found family, even though I'm pretty sure I would murder all of them myself if my friend group were that energetic. I'm sorry, I love you guys, but I'm a hardcore introvert and I could not live with these people. For lack of a better pun, I really like the inner workings of both of our characters' emotions because we do get a dual point of view, and I love watching the distrust turn to trust and the hate turn to love and the sheer power that two girls have when they put their minds to shit. Oh my god, stuff gets blown up real fast. This was such a dynamic debut. I cannot wait for the sequel. You know what, let's do another sci-fi-ish one. This one's a little bit less Pacific Rim and a little bit more like virtual reality fuckery. And I'm talking about the wonderfully layered sci-fi fantasy genre blend death mashup extravaganza that was the Infinity Quartz by Akemi Don Bowman. So this was pitched to me as, what if Siri took over heaven? And I didn't need to hear a single other review on this. I bought it right away. Main character Nami ends up dying in a freak accident, but when she gets to this mysterious heaven-like waiting place, it turns out that a smart device named Ophelia has uploaded itself into the afterlife, turning everything that is after death, and has turned the afterlife into this big virtual reality video game-esque fantasy world where souls are either controlled by Ophelia or awake and rebelling and living in their own camps in the afterlife. Kind of like the Matrix, but more dead. I would also call this year the year of enemies to lovers, and if you want a good actual enemies to lovers, Gil in this is a fantastic love interest. And our princeling Kaylin is also quite good. Not only does this book cover things like grief and mortality, but it also covers things like technology, connection, morality, mortality. Did I say mortality already? I think I did. What makes us human? What do we have control over? Are we even in control of our own death? Where is the future going with our current technology? This book was engrossing. I fell in love with it because you don't know what is real and what is not. But in this AI afterlife, reality can be whatever you want it to be. And I love the interactions between characters. This world is so unique. And also, what was that ending? What's happening? What's going on? Is there a sequel? Is there not? Am I just gonna be here with my feelings for the rest of eternity? Because it sure as hell feels that way. I do want you to read this book because it's really freaking good, but I also want you to read this book so that I can commiserate with someone. Because I still can't sleep at night thinking about what happened. You know what, let's just finish the trifecta. So, I don't know why, but my brain has categorized these three books as kind of belonging together. They're like this trio of badass women warriors who are all in some kind of sci-fi world trying to take down the patriarchy. So next up is the vicious, ferocious, bloodthirsty sci-fi that was Iron Widow by Shiran J. Zhao. Fun fact, I've actually met them. This was a long time ago at one of my other friends' book launches, and when they were talking about like, oh, I got a book deal and it's this, I was like, oh, that's cool, but like didn't think about it, and then suddenly it was out and I'm like, oh my god, I know them! They're like so unassuming. And you read this and you're like, oh my god, are you okay? This is a futuristic fantasy sci-fi that loosely follows the life of the first woman empress of China. The country of Huaxia is being attacked by these alien forces, and to pilot the giant mech bots that fight them, there must be two pilots, a male pilot and a female concubine pilot who sacrifices her life energy to allow the male pilot to kill the alien forces. When Zaytan's sister is sacrificed as one of these pilots, she volunteers herself to become a pilot to take revenge on the man who killed her sister, and ends up killing him in his own mech bot, making her an Iron Widow. To tame her spirit energy, she's paired with the strongest male pilot in the region in hopes of taking her down, but instead of killing each other, they become this hardcore, super powerful dynamic duo who are kicking ass and taking names. Along the way, one of Zaytan's childhood friends comes to live with them, and the three of them end up being this amazing, super cool, well-balanced power throuple. Oh my god, nobody in here is straight and I love it. Every character puts a knife to your throat and demands your attention. You can really feel the rage and the horror behind everybody's lives. This book is brutal and it is intense and it makes you question things, and just knowing that something was gonna get set on fire very quickly just like made me rip through this. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for the sequel. I will buy whatever the hell they put out next. It was phenomenal. I finished reading this book and I'm like, I need to slap somebody. I need a sword. So for whatever reason, this is my dynamic trio power throuple right here. Next up, why don't we do something sassy? Why don't we do something saucy? Why don't we do something a little bit different? Let's talk about a contemporary. Like, I didn't see that coming either, truly. You all know this because I say this all the time, but if you're new, hi, my name's Rachel. I read lesser than or equal to a contemporary novel a year, so the fact that there's even one on this list is, I would say, pretty high praise from me, in my humble opinion. One of my new favorite books and my favorite contemporary of this year that gets a spot of honor on my top 10 list of 2021 was Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. This is a beautiful, heartwarming, heartbreaking sapphic love story in 1950 San Francisco that follows Lily, whose family has immigrated from China to the States, and Kath, whose family is Italian, as they go to a series of underground drag king shows and slowly fall in love. Not only is this a sapphic coming-of-age story, it's also very historical as it goes into what the gay club scene was like at the time and the things that LGBTQ people had to go through. So there are derogatory terms in this, there are police raids, there are families disowning their children. There's also such lovely themes of love and queer found family, and it also goes quite a bit into race and immigration issues, and it talks about what kind of problems that Chinese immigrants to the area were facing at the time. I felt so many feelings reading this, just my small gay heart can't take it. It was so lovely. Oh, I love reading good books. That's my truth. Okay, what's next? Oh, let's talk about the big boy. So I have a list that during the year, once I have a book that I really love, I'll put it on there so I remember by the end of the year which were my favorite books of that year. And I forgot that I even read this book. This straight up vacated the premises, and then as soon as I saw it on this list, everything came rushing back, and it was like, oh my god, how did I forget my favorite Cassandra Clare book that I've read in nigh a decade, and that is Chain of Iron. The sequel to Chain of Gold, and the second in the, oh god, what is it? The Last Hours series. Is there a Shadowhunter rune for keeping all of Cassandra Clare's series straight? Because I'd take it. So this girl, she thick, and she did not disappoint. Last year, I didn't put Chain of Gold on my favorite books of the year because it didn't grab me as much as some of her other series did, but this one, oh, I was put in my place respectfully. The Last Hour series is set in 1910s New York, and it follows the children and the families of the people who were in the, I can do this, Infernal Devices series. So we follow Cordelia, James, and the rest of the Merry Thieves as we go through multiple more Shadowhunter shenanigans and a plethora of immaculate waistcoats. Am I okay? A plethora of immaculate waistcoats. A plethora of immaculate waistcoats, mostly from Matthew. Oh my god, y'all, we did it. Revoke my English degree right now, goddamn. This is what a sequel should be. This builds on what's already there, it explores more of the world, it's giving you more plot points, but building up to the third book, there's way more tension given, and the end of this had me screaming. So, good screaming, bad screaming, I'll never tell. Why do I care about everybody so goddamn much? It still baffles me. Why do I care about these people? They're not real, but I'm so invested in all their family trees. Also, not to brag or anything, but this is a collector's first edition that I got the day it came out. So when the third one drops, whenever that happens to be, I will be #1 in line with both elbows up, ready to get the third one, which it's chain of something, I don't know what it is though. I've been in school for a long time. I currently work at a university. I like reading articles that come up on my newsfeed on Twitter. I like to think I'm a somewhat educated person, but I learned a new word this year, and that is eco-sci-fi, because apparently The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He is an ecological sci-fi novel. Never heard of that before, but I think I like them. It's called an eco-sci-fi because it takes place after we fuck the world up and like the plate tectonics are all weird, so like no one really lives on the surface because it's all polluted. People live up in this eco-city that floats in the sky and everyone has no carbon footprint and eats nutrient cubes and just like mind teleports places instead of actually going there. It follows two sisters, one of whom is C, who wakes up on a deserted island with no memory of who she is or how she got there, and the only thing she knows is that she has a sister and needs to return to her. Whereas the sister C is trying to find is named Casey, and she lives in this eco-city and is trying to find out what happened to her sister after she went missing in the polluted ocean during a political revolution down on Earth. Ooh, this messes with reality and time and morality. Morally gray is my favorite color. It talks about humanity, what makes us human, what connects us, what are we doing to our planet, global warming concerns. One of our main characters is probably a sociopath, so that's fun. We get a bit of a villain origin story that becomes way more traditional sci-fi near the end than I was expecting, and it was such a cool twist. The Ones We're Meant to Find had me on edge because you were constantly guessing at what's real, whose side are we on, who is telling the truth, who thinks they're telling the truth. It asks you, what are you willing to do for humanity? What are you willing to do for family? I'm an only child, so I'm probably not as revolutionary as these people. But I do recycle all my cardboard and plastics, so I think that counts for something. God, this book was so exciting. I didn't know what to do with myself. Okay, we are down to our final two. So first up, second last, is traditional high fantasy that goes back to my Germanic roots as we talk about Little Thieves by Margaret Owens. Margaret Owens does it again. This book had the freaking nerve. Want a dark god jewel heist novel? This is the girl for you. Vanya gives Kaz a run for his money, and that's saying something. Our main character, Vanya, is the adopted daughter of the gods of death and fortune. But even so, she is running heists in high society to gain enough money to buy her debt from them. She is currently living life under the guise of a famous princess when she accidentally crosses the wrong dark god and gets herself cursed to turn to gemstones for her own greed. With a limited amount of time to end the curse and a nosy journalist who won't leave her alone and might blow her cover, Vanya has to find a way to end the curse while also being caught up in this castle political conspiracy, and after stealing so many people's lives, she has to find out what her own identity is. If you like Shadow and Bone, if you like Six of Crows, if you like Gilded Wolves, this is the frickin' book for you, my friend. Margaret Owens has such beautiful writing. It really pulls you in. It's so atmospheric and descriptive. This is a loose retelling of one of my favorite fairy tales, which is The Goose Girl. So we have some of that traditional fairy folklore type vibe, structure, plot line, overlay, underlay, foundation? One of those words will do. There's some very funny situations that Vanya gets herself into while trying to pull off these heists and pretending to be other people. There's a great antagonist slash enemies to lovers in the character of Conrad. Their dynamic is so fun and ridiculous, but also they work so well together. They're great pairing. Also, we have two demisexual leads, which is fun and funky fresh. I love them together and how accessible that kind of sexuality is to people reading it, maybe not understanding what that means. And I believe that this book is going to be getting more set in this world with similar characters, but it's not going to be a series. And I personally love that. I love when characters make cameos in other books, and this is such an immersive, interesting world, especially the folklore. I want to learn more about like the low god magic. I want to learn about all these weird horse-shaped things. As a horse girl, I really enjoyed the amount of equine and equestrian shaped and situational shenanigans that happened in this book. You can't cheat death or luck or fate, but Vanya sure as hell tries, and I give her wow, I give her mad props. What is this, 2003? Well, you know, Y2K is coming back in style, and I did all my cognitive development in the early 2000s, so I guess that's where that's coming from. Ooh, okay, we're on our last one. Woo! Zesty. Oh, I put a whole lime in that, and I think that was a little too much lime. Lastly, this is why you don't put out your best books of the year at the beginning of December, because you have a whole month to maybe find a new favorite, and that's exactly what happened to me, because everybody that posted their favorite books of the year at the beginning of December missed out on the explosive ending to the duology by Chloe Gong, aka Our Violent Ends, the sequel to These Violent Delights. These Violent Delights is a bloody, magical retelling of Romeo and Juliet set in 1920 Shanghai between two rival drug lord gang heirs, Roma and Juliet. And wow, oh, it was one of my favorites of 2020 because it was, ooh, with everything I love. I love Shakespeare, I love retellings, I love bloodthirsty enemies to lovers. And so when Our Violent Ends came out, I was like, my body is ready, and I got it, and I finished this in a day and a half. And did I cry? Oh yes, I did. I was there sobbing into a plate of French fries while finishing this book at like 10 at night, as one does, because Chloe Gong freaking went there, and it was really upsetting, but also really good. She took that classic Shakespeare and she twisted it into her own thing, where you think that you know the story beats, and maybe you do, but like, who's holding the gun this time, eh? These characters are dramatic as hell, and I really loved seeing them act up because they're ridiculous, and Roma is my baby Russian cinnamon roll, and we love him. And Juliet could stab me in the back any day. Girl, work. A couple weeks ago, I watched a panel where Chloe Gong was talking about Our Violent Ends because she wrote These Violent Delights just as, you know, global panorama occurred, but she was talking about how specifically she was writing this book during the first year of our pepperoni pizza that we're still currently in. So the story was hitting a lot of the same beats that were actually happening worldwide, but she didn't want to lean too much into that. Is a very fine line, and I think she pulled it off. Also, how did I not know that this was gonna be tragic? Romeo and Juliet is a goddamn tragedy. I don't know why I expected this to have a happy ending, but here I am, biggest sucker of 2021. Like, I should have seen this coming. Is this what happens? That like, I don't study Shakespeare for like 2 whole semesters and suddenly all of my 16th century knowledge is just out the window? Juliet and Roma are dramatic as always. Roma is super salty in this book, and their dynamic together is so great. Okay, all my tonic water is gone. I think it's time to wrap this up. Those are my favorite books of 2021, and it's so weird because I'm filming this currently in 2021, but by the time it goes up, it'll be in 2022. That's so weird. I'm excited for this year because, you know, I want to say it can't get worse, but it could always get worse, so knock on wood. My downstairs neighbors are gonna be like, who's knocking on our ceiling? But hey, I've never met them, so for all I know, they could be some kind of mythological creature who's capable of granting wishes or seeing fate or whatever. I'm keeping my Christmas tree up for at least the first week of January, because, you know, we could all use a little extra cheer. I think we've deserved it. Oh, this bun. These are not at equal heights. Why didn't any of you tell me? Oh, that's not better. Okay, well, whatever, video's over anyway. Please leave down below some of your favorite books of 2021. I would love to hear. Of course, you know, these are the ones that I read, so maybe in like January's wrap up, I'll have a ton that should have been on this list because I'm just backlogging myself, but hey, you never know, that's life as a reader. Plus the 2022 lineup is looking real fine. It's looking real good. So I have no idea what I'm going to accumulate in the next couple of months and what I'm gonna get around to reading. I hope all of you had a good holiday and a happy new year doing whatever, if you were hanging out with some friends, or if you just like went to bed at 7 p.m. by yourself. I don't blame you either way. So here's to a fresh year of new ideas, new projects, and many, many new books. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!